I'm joined now by East Carolina's Nicole Nash. Nicole, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to talk about your story. But a couple years ago, it was maybe even a question if you would be sitting here today.
Right.
So I want to talk about that. Can you start at the beginning and tell everyone what exactly I'm referencing?
It was a Friday afternoon and I was playing golf with a few of my friends. I was about 40 yards in front of this one girl who I was playing with, and she just hit her shot and it was a 3-wood and the ball duck hooked, so it went straight to the left and hit me straight in the back of the head. At the time I was still conscious. I actually did not fall down on the golf course, so I did not pass out. I was immediately rushed off the course. Thankfully, the head pro was there at the time, and so he rushed me off the golf course in a cart, and we met my parents in the parking lot. And my parents picked me up in the parking lot, and then we went straight to the hospital. And at the hospital, I had a couple CTEs, and they told me that I pretty much had a golf ball size indent in my skull. From one hospital, I was rushed to the Children's Levine Hospital in Charlotte, Uptown. And I was immediately rushed into surgery where they took out some of the broken bone fragments and replaced it with a metal plate in my head.
So do you remember different parts of that day? I know you just recalled it, but when you think back to it, do you remember going from place to place, or is it just all kind of a blur? What was that like?
Yeah, so I actually pretty much remember everything. It actually all feels like it was just yesterday. So I remember going from one hospital to the next. They took me in an ambulance, so that was definitely an experience, but I pretty much remember everything, yeah.
And so you go from hospital to hospital and then you're rushed into surgery, but your road was kind of just beginning there. So walk me through what happened. You come out of surgery, what happens next?
Yeah, so I come out of surgery, it's 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I was diagnosed with something that was called aphasia, which basically means that your brain, what you think and what you say don't connect. So I had to go to speech therapy for several months after that to basically reconnect those parts of my brain and relearn how to talk. Yeah, and golf was pretty much out of the question. I couldn't play for about 6 months. So, just pretty much starting from zero, having to relearn how to speak, and losing 4 months of golf and 4 or 5 months of golf was definitely not easy.
No, I can only imagine when you look back at that, what was the most difficult part of that, speech therapy and just, like you're saying, not being able to golf, it's something that you've done for most of your life.
I would say pretty much the most difficult thing was not doing what I love, not playing golf. Speech therapy was definitely a challenge, not something I would recommend for anybody, but just not doing what I loved. I love playing golf, and I still do, and it's a passion of mine. So, just having to sit on the sidelines for that long and, watch all my friends still play, and it was really hard for me to be like, I can't play, and have to take that step back and, look at my life from a different perspective.
In those really difficult moments, what was it that got you through?
I would say my parents, my friends and my parents, they really just helped me through all of it. My parents were there by my side every day. My mom spent the days with me, or my mom spent the nights with me in the hospital, and my dad spent the days with me. They never left my side. And, I really give it all to them. I owe it all to them for my recovery and how they've helped me through all of it.
Man, I can only imagine what they were probably experiencing as well, just watching you struggle like that. That must have been really difficult for them as well.
It happened to me, yes, but it also happened to them. And, they have to now realize that their daughter has a metal plate in their head, and that's not easy for them, and they, their heads are always on a swivel of what if, you know what I mean? So definitely was not, easy on them as well.
I bet. Now you are going through speech therapy, and you said off of golf for 6 months. When did you think maybe I can play again, and how did that process look like coming back to the sport?
My doctor told me after surgery that golf, I could restart again small after about 4 or 5 months. And so that's pretty much what I did, is about 4 or 5 months after summer, into the school year, I started putting and chipping, and then I eventually worked my way up into drivers, irons, and so on. So then I played tournaments, and I was fortunate enough to play high school golf.
So how did you get from high school golf, right, and you're starting to get back into the swing of things, for lack of a pun, I guess, to then coming to East Carolina to be a college golfer?
My dreams never changed over the years. It just kind of looked a little bit differently. So I, had to start, putting and chipping, and that was hard for me, but I knew I was starting from behind everybody. After losing 4 months of not being able to play at all, that was really hard. So I knew I had to work harder than everybody else, and I knew I had to put more time in and more effort. And, but it didn't matter to me because this is what I love. And so I loved playing golf, and I didn't mind working just as hard or harder than everybody else. Yeah, that was pretty much it, and I thank East Carolina for taking the opportunity on me and the chance, and here I am, so it's awesome.
When you realized you were going to have an opportunity to golf here at East Carolina, what was that like?
Oh, I started crying. I did. When Coach Cece recruited me, I had tears in my eyes, and it was just so surreal, full circle moment for me that I was just, wow, like, I wasn't playing golf, a little while ago, and now here I am being a college athlete and carrying out my dreams and making myself proud. So
when you put on your uniform and you get to compete, what does it feel like in those moments? Do you ever think back to like where you were to where you were now?
I do, yes, often actually, and I try to live every day like it's my last, and I really, putting on the East Carolina uniform, I have a sense of pride that I'm not just playing for myself, and I'm playing for my team and my coaches and, the whole East Carolina family. So, I do it for them and I do it for myself and my parents who put all the effort into me. So, but yeah, it's awesome. I really love doing what I do.
You went through something that is more difficult than probably what most people go through in an entire lifetime,
right.
and you're sitting here today to tell the story. So what would your advice be to somebody who is going through a difficult time? How do you push through that?
I would tell people that it gets better. It does, and you might think maybe not right now, and it might look hard, but 5 years ago, I was hit in the head, and here I am today. So it gets better, and I would tell people, don't stand in front of people when they play golf. A little advice, don't stand in front of somebody. But yeah, it gets better, it does, and it might look hard now, but you'll move on and push through that. So.
Well, Nicole, I know that I am very grateful that you pushed through and that you get to sit here today and have this conversation with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. You are truly an inspiration to a lot of people out there.